Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and welcome to the iniBuilds Airbus A300 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. The new version of the aircraft has just been released for the brand new simulator, and owners of the previous version can either have a free upgrade, bringing the old FS 2020 version to the new sim, including quite a couple of bug fixes, but without any of the new features particular to the new simulator, or you can purchase an upgrade for approximately 15 euros, that's 10 British pounds on the iniBuilds store, but remember that's without tax and stuff, so you gotta add that, so around 15 euros or US dollars for the aircraft, including all the new simulators features, such as engine cowling, covers, or such as chocks, or such as new aerodynamics. Now, we are using the premium version over here that included the upgrade cost. But remember, if you don't own the iniBuilds A300 at all yet, you can buy the new version directly for 45 British pounds or roughly approximately 60 euros from the iniBuilds store. Now let's go inside and see how different this one is from the previous versions, as well as for those of you who haven't owned the iniBuilds A300 at all yet, to see what this add-on can do on a normal flight from London Heathrow over to Brussels Airport, which is going to take us around 35 minutes and is operated by DHL in the real world on this type. So follow me inside as we're about to set up our aircraft. The first thing you will notice is that the cockpit of the A300 is pretty similar to that of the default A310, which is indeed also made by iniBuilds. But there are a couple of changes available, such as the new MCDU that you can use for ACAS and CPDLC operations, for example, and such as a lot of expanded features on the electronic flight bag that we have over here. Now let's start by looking into those expanded features. So, of course, we do have Navigraph charts available, and we don't only have a takeoff performance calculator, but also landing performance, which is a must in the real world. Also, we have the aircraft maintenance features, which add a simulation of the oil quantities, hydraulic quantities, the tire status, and the actual brake wear status. It also adds the option to do a lot of maintenance on existing features of the aircraft, such as if we go for service APU, then the APU is now going to get maintained, which we can see live in action over here, taking us 15 minutes, or we can just finish it straight away. But before we do that, let's have a quick look outside and actually see that in action, as I do find it quite cool over here that it now adds... Nope, that must have been the wrong button. That it now adds an actual engineer working on the aircraft over here, which is quite cool and just immersive. Now let's go back into the cockpit, and from here we are going to work ourselves across a couple of the different features of the aircraft. So starting the walk around, one particular emphasis we gotta pay is right down here on our tire status. Since, as I mentioned, the tires can and do wear down, quite similar to how they do in the PMDG 777, for example. Something that is new with the FS 2024 version, however, is that you can dynamically see the effect of the weight of the aircraft acting on the tires, so you can see them bending out down here, and this changes live and dynamically with the aircraft's weight changing, so that's quite a cool thing going on in the background over there. Also check the landing gear for the brake wear indicated pins that you can see down here, which must not be flat with the metal. So these are just some of the changes we've got with the new version. Now, one small thing you will notice on the aft wheels over here is that the textures seem to be flickering a little bit. Unfortunately, that is the case in the current version, and something that I hope they are going to change very soon. Now let's go right back inside and start getting our Airbus A300 ready for our short flight. Now the first thing we are going to do is to power up the aircraft. So we start turning on all three batteries right up here, and then we check that the wipers are off, the gear lever is down, the flaps are up and in agreement with the actual flap position, the spoilers are up, the fuel is off, and the weather radar is in the off position. Now when all of that is done, we can go ahead and turn on our external power, And since it is rather cold outside, recording this one in December of course, let's go ahead and run the APU fire test, and then we can start up the APU as well. So for that we are going to turn on the inner tank pump number 2, the APU master switch goes on, and once the low pressure light is out, we can hit the starter button as well, and with that the APU is coming up. Now, we did already see that our APU oil quantity is full on the maintenance page, but we could also have checked that over on the actual APU panel. And let me just turn that APU off and on again, because, well, we did have the engineer in place there. Small little misplay from my side. So going back here in the cockpit, we can actually see the gauge of the APU oil quantity showing us that it is physically full. So we don't need to access those maintenance pages at all, but we can simply verify it in the cockpit as well. Alright, and now let's try that again. APU master switch on, wait for the fuel pump low pressure light to go out, and then APU starter, and here we go. So basic lights coming on, and then we can move up to the top. Oxygen is coming on, and then the IRSs can come on as well. And while all of that is happening, let's quickly move over into the electronic flight bag to check our flight plan and then make up a plan for our flight. So we are going to import our SimBrief flight plan over here, and we can view it with a button right down here. Now, quick check into the actual conditions for our flight, and we can see our departure airport London Heathrow shows us good weather conditions all over, and our destinations Brussels is very good as well. Later on it's going to become a little bit low clouds and showers, but right now it's in a very good shape. Our alternate Liège is likewise showing us very good weather conditions. Overnight it's going to get bad, but by that time we'll be lying in some lovely hotel. So overall we don't need to take any extra fuel, so I'm going to make my life simple over here. We need 8.6 tons for our takeoff fuel plus 800 kilos taxi fuel. So let's round it up, 10 tons of fuel, and that's easy going then. So going right over into the weight and balance menu, over here I am going to import my custom SimBrief cargo, and I will apply that to the aircraft. And then let's change the fuel as well and add 10,000 kilos of fuel into the aircraft. Again, apply load, and we can see that going on live on the top over here. Or we can just hit finish now, and then our refueling is completed immediately. So since the aircraft is now loaded, let's take a quick look into the cargo hold and see what we can find over there. So let's open that door and walk to the back, and over here we can see that the cargo area is fully simulated, including 5 drum seats down here in the cabin, and we also have the possibility to operate the cargo door right from the panel over here. The panel isn't fully simulated, we don't have the locking mechanisms, but we can determine the angle at which the door opens, which we can see down here is either 70 degrees or 145 degrees, and we can toggle the open and close switch. So let's go ahead and open the door up. The first thing that happens is that the cover over here removes, and then we can see the door opening in the back over here and extending all the way out. Likewise, we do of course also have the physical cargo simulated within the hold, and it changes live depending on your loadout. Today we just got some easy containers, and we actually have the entire aircraft full of them, adding 40 tons of cargo to the aircraft. Now let's go back to the front and start our pre-flight preparation and get the aircraft ready for service. So let's go right into here, and to make our life easy, let's also go ahead and open one of those passenger doors. Well, I'll call them passenger doors, you know what that's about. And attach some stairs as well, all of which you can do from right within the electronic flight bag. So, I do have a detailed tutorial series available for the Airbus A300 on my channel in case you're interested. So do have a look at that if you want to learn how to operate this aircraft fully. As I am not going to make this one a tutorial, but much rather I want to demonstrate how the aircraft can operate if it is flown correctly. Now, let's go ahead and turn all of those pumps on. Like that, and then moving over to the right side, the window heaters can come on. We'll keep the probe heat off for now in order to protect anybody who might accidentally touch those probes so that they don't burn themselves. So So that's looking good. And then let's move over here. Always a little bit afraid of accidentally pulling the APU fire switch when trying to hit that squid test. Alright, that's working fine. Then let's move down here and we can do the annunciator test, making sure that all of those lights are actually working correctly. And then we can turn on the APU bleed, which is actually going to make it quite loud in here. So the rest is done right up here. Then let's move further down onto the main panel and grab the latest weather information, which we can get over here. Let's update that, and the QNH is 1032. So the speed indicators are looking good. Moving down to our altimeter then, we've got a QNH of 1032. We can align the standby horizon, which has that neat little visual effect added to it from the actual alignment. And we can set our standby altimeter as well. So for the brake test, we are going to switch the brake anti-skid off, and that should make the indicated brake pressure drop. Unfortunately, it doesn't while the chocks are in place, and the parking brake. So we would need to remove all of those. So we can't really do that test properly, and unfortunately that hasn't really changed since the original version of the A300 came out. Landing elevation 100 feet, then we can do the landing gear warning test up here, which is looking good. And then moving down to the pedestal, you will notice that unlike the A310, which is also done by iniBuilds and included by default, the A300 has the ability to add the MCDU down here, which amongst others includes a lot of ACARS functions. So down here we can, for example, do our pre-departure clearance. So over here we could enter Echo Golf Lima Lima, destination Echo Bravo Bravo Romeo, gate is 617 if I'm not mistaken, 8 is Alpha, ATC facility along Heathrow. Now we are not flying this on a VATSIM for this reason, I'm not going to send this out. But one nice example of what you can do here is also to get your weather. So let's grab, for example, London Heathrow and our destination Brussels. I want a METAR, not an ATIS, and then let's send that one. And now it sends out those requests. We'll see when we are going to get an answer to that. Sometimes ACARS can take quite a while. And of course we also have the radio tuning options down here, so 1 to 2.8 can directly be tuned here, 1 to 1.5 tuned over here. We also have the abilities to change our transponder settings over there, and last but not least our squawk. So that's what this system has in store for us. Alright, finishing up our scan. Down here everything is set, the trims are at 0, and we want to talk on VHF 1. We want to listen to it as well. We also want to listen to VHF 2 and to the interphone, so let's turn all of those up. And of course not just on the captain's side, but also on the first officer's side. Alright, and that leads us right into the FMS setup, so let's go for it. We're going to check and clear those scratchpad messages down here, and then let's start with our setup. So I am going to do a manual entry over here. So we're going from Heathrow over to Brussels. And to that, our alternate is going to be Charleroi, like this. And our coordinates are looking good, so let's hit Align IRS. We are doing express cargo today, so Costenix 100, as we want to go really fast. Cruise level 230 and Postman 2665 is going to be our call sign as per the real world flight. Onto the flight plan then, departing Heathrow from runway 9 right, and we follow the Datling 1 Juliet departure, which we can insert. Then from Datling we will follow the Quebec 70 airway towards Coxie VOR, like that. And last but not least, we are looking for the arrivals into Brussels. Let's select the star. ILS approach 25 right, we've got the Coxie 8 Alpha arrival, and we'll take the Kirky 1 Sierra transition. Insert all of those, and now let's go ahead and have a quick look at our flight plan down here, get the constraints up, and we can also get our Navigraph charts up in the electronic flight bag. So departure, Heathrow, we of course want our airport charts. Go to the airport up here. and we're looking for the airport chart, and then we want our departure charts, Detling 1 Juliet. Let's bring that up on the EFB. So initially we go straight out to 2 dB London, right hand turn 120 degrees until 4 dB London, and then 102 inbound to 34 dB from Detling. If we check this on the FMS, you can see we've got 2 dB London on the runway track, then 120 degrees inbound to 4 dB London, and then we've got the Detling 34 point, and then we proceed on the radial 282 inbound Detling VOR with a couple of altitude restrictions. So between 3 and 6 at 29 dB, 5 and 6 at 20 dB, 6 at 16 dB. And if we check this in here, we've got Detling 29 above 3000, 20 dB Detling above 5000, and then 16 dB at 6000. And then we proceed via 5 dB at 6000 towards Detling VOR also at 6000, all of which we have in here as they are supposed to be. We can scroll through the plan down here and verify all our remaining waypoints, but we will have a more detailed look at that later on in flight anyway. So going down to the secondary flight plan, we are going to enter an immediate return towards Heathrow. So I'm going to enter a new flight plan over here from Heathrow to Heathrow, like that. And for the SID, let's go ahead and select the same thing that we already have in the primary, so Detling 1 Juliet. And then for our immediate return, I am going to enter no star, ILS approach 9 right, no transition, and insert that into our secondary. So back onto the primary pages then. Init B, block fuel is going to be 10 tons. We can grab the zero fuel weight right from within the electronic flight bag, so that's on the weight and balance page. And down here we've got a zero fuel weight of 120.7 with a CG at 30.22. So 120.7 into the zero fuel weight and the CG 30.2. That gives us a takeoff gross weight at 130.1. Optimum level 340, cruise level 230 as it is a very short flight. And if we have a look at our fuel predictions over here, we end up with an extra fuel of 2.3 tons or half an hour. Finally, let's go on to the takeoff page and we can do our calculations in the EFB once again. So we've got the takeoff page down here. We are departing runway 9 right. Synchronize the weather and the weights. Flaps 15, air conditioning on, anti-ice and toga off. Calculate. And that gives us takeoff speeds of 154, 163, 163 at 63 degrees flex temperature. So 154, 163, and let's do engine out acceleration to 1500 above ground, so 1580 into here. And in order to set the V2, we need an aligned IRS, which we already have. So then we can turn the pitch trim on up here, which brings our FCU live. And in here we can set our V2, so 163. And we can pre-select the clean speed, which is going to be 214. So let's go ahead and pre-select that. Let's make our lives easy here, 220. Initial altitude 6000 at the runway heading 089 can already be set as well. And that's it. Perfect, so that's our aircraft setup completed. So let's go ahead and do the before start checklist down to the line, please. So that is going to be cockpit preparation completed. Signs on and auto. Fuel quantity. Let's bring the fuel page up down here. So we have 10 tons on board and balanced. Navigation checked and set. Landing elevation 100 feet set. Altimeters QNH 1032. And let's use the moment to set our fuel elevation up here as well. And the brakes anti-skid are norm and on. Before start checklist complete down to the line. So, waiting for the last moments of the IRS alignment, which should be done fairly soon. Let's go ahead and check that up here on the status indicator, how long it's going to take. So, heading status, 1 minute to go for number 1, 2, and 3. Very good. So let's make good use of the time at hand and start by closing the cargo door and get our aircraft ready for service. So, cargo door closed. And here we go. And we should also lock the door now. Unfortunately, that part is not simulated, but, well. Something I would really like to be added for the future is the ability to actually close and open those doors. Because as you can see right now, you can go inside and outside, but you can't actually operate the door from over here. So it would be really nice if they added that with a future update. In any case, we can go back into our cockpit, set the flex temperature, which I had previously forgotten. So that's going to be 63 degrees up here. Here we go. And then with our IRS alignment that should be completed any moment, let's go for GSX and prepare our position for pushback and departure. Handling by, doesn't really matter. And then we can go down into the EFB, onto the ground equipment page. Our doors in transit already closing up, and then arm all doors. Which unfortunately still seems a little bit bugged over here, as you can see. But well, we gotta live with that. Okay, let's see, APU is avail, so external power can go off. Then we are gonna remove the chocks, the covers, and the stairs, and the ground power unit. Let's try again, arm all doors. But for some reason they still disarm themselves automatically. Not sure why that happens. We'll just leave it at that. Okay then, our pushback should be approved by now, so let's go ahead and switch our transponder into Alt On. You can select the radio up there as well. The beacon can come on before start checklist below the line, please. Windows and doors, closed, beacon on, park and brake is set before start checklist complete. So IRS alignment has finished as well. Wonderful. With that we are good to go. Now that's not the view I wanted. This is more like it. Alright, they're connecting the tuck down there. They should be lifting off any moment, and once the lift is completed, we can go ahead and start our pushback. The scenery is in use today. iniBuilds for London Heathrow and Yo Erlandsund / Aerosoft for Brussels. Okay, perfect. They're lifting us now. The nose will go to the right. And then our park and brake is released. You let us know when we can start the engines, please. So, starting the pushback. I gotta say that A300 is a beautiful looking aircraft, isn't it? Now something else we gotta do before we can actually leave is close that door. Oh, that was a little bit laggy. So, close that door. Well, and then let's go ahead and start the engines in sequence. So, starting engine 1. And engine 1 start. Okay, engine 1, FADEC channel A fault. Alright, no OEBs, ECAM actions please. So, ProArt on. So that's ProArt on. Clear engine 1. Clear engine 1. ECAM action complete. Alright, so we're at max motoring, fuel coming on. Now here's a little gotcha. If your engine 1 does not start on the A300, check your control assignments. I fell victim to this myself. There is a default binding on the Honeycomb Bravo that says mixture decrease. And for some reason, when that binding exists, regardless whether it is actually in, whether you actually press the button or not, you cannot start engine number 1. So have that in mind. If your engine doesn't start, go into the settings and remove that decrease mixture button binding of your Honeycomb Bravo. So let's go ahead and start engine number 2. We do have N2 increasing, oil pressure increasing, N1 is increasing. We're past 15%, so the fuel can come on. And that looks like we have ignition on engine number 2 and engine 2 is running up normally. Overall looking very good. So ground flight deck, we have 2 good starts, you're clear to disconnect, show me the pin on the left side and have a wonderful day. Bye bye. So let's see what they are doing. Standing around. Very hard to see actually. There he is, walking away. Perfect, so 2 good engine starts. Let's go for the after start procedures. Okay, ready for the flight control track? Full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral. Rudder is once again not reacting. Okay, not a problem. That is a little issue with my Thrustmaster paddles, which seem to be wearing out. I just got to disconnect and reconnect them. Alright, and now we can do the rudder. So, kindly give me my flight controls, please. So, rudder left, rudder right, and neutral. So, just a quick check, since when I do that, sometimes it changes a couple of my switches around, which seems to be an FS 2024 bug. When you connect or disconnect the joystick, yeah, here you can see it. It's just changed my flap setting, it's changed my FCU, because why not? So we had 163 and a pre-selection at 220. Like that, and an altitude at 6,000. Runway heading was 089. Here we go. That's a bug. I really don't know why it exists. Fairly annoying. Looks like it's removed our flags as well. Here we go. Alright, and you go back here. Don't tell me it reset my FMS. Nope, everything is still here. It just went back to the init page. I really don't know why it's doing that. That's such an annoying bug. In any case, after start checklist. So, pitch trim. Come on. You show me that over here. So, we're at down 0.2. As we should be according to the EFB. Let me just cross-check that one more time. So, weight and balance. CG is over here, and on the takeoff page, that is the correct CG in there, down 0.2, yeah. Okay, pitch trim 0.2 down set, rudder trim 0, spoilers, armed, slats, flaps 15 and 15, beacon status checked, anti-ice off, hand signal received, after start checklist complete. Why did it turn on my landing lights? No. So that's what we wanted to do. Nose light on, turn off lights on, brake released, and off we go. So, taxi. Our taxi routing will be fairly easy. So we're down here on the cargo apron, out to the left via Sierra, all the way to 09 right. Doesn't get much easier than that. So, the premium version of the A300 now supports the new ground dynamics in FS 2024. So let's see how that's gonna feel in action. We're at 10 knots, I'll go into the turn without any thrust. Let's watch our ground speed. Slightly decreasing as we go through the turn. Overall, it seems we do need a little bit of power above idle in order to start accelerating here, which I could very well imagine to be realistic, as this A300 has the Pratt engines fitted, and I haven't flown any aircraft with those engines. So, let's go ahead though and position our point of view a little bit higher so that we can actually see something outside. So, off to the left, a little bit of oversteering technique here so that we can actually get through the turns properly. Remember, it's a pretty long aircraft. But no, dear guys among you, it's not that long. I'm sure she agrees. Okay, when we're on the long and straight line over here, then we can go ahead and run our taxi procedures. So, flight control check is complete, so the auto brake goes to max, takeoff thrust is selected, flaps are selected, weather radar comes on and number 1. That's looking good over here. We don't really need the terrain display since we have only flat lands around. Well, then, before takeoff checklist, down to the line, please. Flight controls, checked. Briefing, confirmed. Sleds flaps, 15 and 15. Performance and FMAs, well, are checked, and we have profile and nav blue. Okay, takeoff config. Okay, checked. And transponder is set. Before takeoff checklist complete, down to the line. I gotta admit, this is an area of Heathrow where I've never taxied before, and where I really didn't think I would ever taxi. Alright, approaching 09 right, line up and wait. The packs are going to remain on. Before takeoff checklist below the line. Cabin secured, TCAS, TARA. Packs on, ignition off, and anti-ice is off. Before takeoff checklist complete. So 09 right, here it is. We're clear on the approach. Are you ready? Well then, take off. So, why can I not press the toga switch? Not 100% sure. Well, let's set thrust manually then. They did have that click spot, didn't they? So we're looking at 1.4 EPR. So roughly like this. Thrust set, 100 knots. V1. Rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. So, flying it slightly outside the flight director now. They used to have the toga switch over here. I'm Not 100% sure why they no longer do. Okay, profile mode has engaged. And then climb thrust. Set. Flaps 0. Speed checked. And slats retract. Speed checked. So you should have been on. First officer didn't do the job during the lineup. And you go out. Why is it descending? It was in trim. I have no clue why it started to descend. Oh, that was a harsh transition on the lights there. Down to the sim, of course, not the aircraft. So overall, it does fly pretty well. You can see my yoke movements down there, which are rather minimal. And you can see the aircraft does perform pretty well. So let's get the autopilot on, and let's see how the autopilot is going to handle the aircraft. We're going to do an unrestricted climb here, up to flight level 150. So level change is selected. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah. Even though I'm not 100% sure why. But anyway. So, after takeoff and climb checklist, please. Slats flaps, retracted, landing gear. Up and neutral, packs, on, holding at altimeters. Well, set standard. Standard cross-check passing flight level 66 now. Checked. After takeoff climb checklist completed. Okay, and with that we're up and on the way. Lovely climb throughout the clouds, and overall lovely looking aircraft. Sometimes the textures do seem to take a little while to load, which is rather strange seeing that it's local on my computer, but hey, at least we don't have those original MSFS problems any longer. Now, if you remember why or where the toga click spot has moved, then be sure to put it in the comments below. Okay, passing 10,000, let's go ahead and accelerate, looking for around 300 something knots. Let's see, up here it doesn't really give us any econ speed, so I'd say if we just go 310 for the time being, that's already a good start. Then the lights are coming off, seatbelts are coming off in case we do have any supernumeraries on board. And we can do clear and copy, even though that just consists of copying the active to the secondary now. Okay, so progress page, what do we have over here? Cruise 230, maximum 390. Okay, easy going, very easy going. Beautiful, so with that we are on our way. Now a couple of sunshades over here. It doesn't look like the sunshades down here are modeled, even though you can kind of see where you would attach them to. But that's okay. As you can see, it is rather bright outside, so it would be rather nice to have some more sunshades available here. In any case, we're up and on the way, so let's take a quick moment to recap our departure and our initial experience on the iniBuilds Airbus A300. So overall, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with it. Now, if you have already flown the default Airbus A310, which of course is a pretty similar aircraft, then you will have noticed that there are a couple of differences on the aircraft types, and of course a lot of similarity prevails, but additional features such as the MCDU or such as the cargo version of the aircraft, which is hands down the one version that is still operated today. I'm not sure if any passenger aircraft are still flying, maybe a few, but certainly not many. So unless you do like flying historic routes on the 310, then the A300, that includes both the passenger and the cargo version, is definitely one for you to go for. Now, my initial experience on flight, most importantly, my initial experience with the aircraft's handling dynamics is rather good, even though the aircraft felt pretty much in trim for the vast majority of the flight. It did go nose down for a small bit there, which I'm not 100% sure why it did that. Maybe... Well, no, maybe. I just don't know, to be honest. I just don't know. Overall, though, the aircraft did feel rather fine, so I wouldn't really say that anything major acted up there. Quite the opposite, indeed. It did fly fairly smooth. Let's go ahead and disconnect the autopilot here for a moment and do a couple of manual handling exercises. So you can see my yoke on the bottom of the screen there. So let's do a little bit of an acceleration up to 320 knots, please. So tiny nose down moment. You can see how easily the aircraft reacts. Let's keep it at that pitch that we have right now on the flight director. So I'm applying a little bit of trim there. And that's it already. Accelerating nicely. Reaching 320 knots, let's pitch it up again a bit. Again, very slight input on the yoke. The aircraft is very fast at the moment, making the controls very effective, of course. And no further inputs needed. It's nicely maintaining the pitch. Let's try the same with a little bit of bank. Let's go left, heading 080. So, heading select. A little bit of control input there. Reacting nicely. I do need a tiny bit of back pressure in order to maintain my pitch. Let's roll out again. And let's give ourselves a direct to Coxie VOR. So, direct to Kilo Oscar Kilo. And nav. So overall, small control inputs, you can fly the airplane really smoothly with that, giving it an overall very good feeling on the controls. Alright, I will keep hand flying it for a little bit as I want to see how the aircraft is going to behave when leveling off. For now, let's go back in profile mode, giving us up to 325 knots of speed. So very small forward control input in order to lower the nose a little bit. And with that we are accelerating nicely. 325 knots is achieved right now. Let's pitch it back up again. Approaching. 2000 to go. Vertical speed. Let's fly 2000 exactly over here. Like this. You can see again, no control input here. It's pretty stable. Then let's go down to 1000 feet a minute for the last 1000 feet. So, slight nose down moment on the yoke. Small reaction of the aircraft, exactly as I like it. That's how you fly a plane. And then let's achieve 1000 feet a minute of climb rate here. Like that. Easy going. Slight bit of trim. But look at that. It is not all that easy to trim it out, especially for small changes there. So now we're at 1200 feet a minute. Let's fly it exactly into this 1000. But now trimming this out, that is not actually all that easy. So here we go. That's looking okay. Speed alt stop. Let's fly that level off. So 1000 to go, a little bit of a pitch forward. And here we are, flight level 230. Come on, aircraft. So 230. Pitch pretty much neutral. Let's go ahead and trim it out, and once we're in trim again, I will re-engage that autopilot. So a tiny bit of a pitch up input over here. Looking good. Okay. Autopilot 1 is in command again. Then profile, P speed, P alt. Looking very good. So let's see if we can find our top of descent over here around 100 miles out. So let's take a small moment here to leave our flight deck and have a quick look into the cabin of our aircraft once again. We can immediately notice a change in the sounds as we're going to the back, and indeed those spatial sounds are something that they did work on with the premium version of the A300. In general, I would call those pretty good. Now, I only know what it sounds like in an A330 and a 737, but seeing that the A330 is based on the same airframe, I'm actually pretty happy with those sounds as we have them over here. Let's take a quick moment and just walk through here. Unfortunately, we can't open that zipper that we should have over here as we're in flight, but we can just walk through it. And let's just take a second to go a little bit aft here and notice any changes in the sounds that we might get. In the real world, as you are walking closer to the engine, you really notice it changing as you can hear it right now. That buzzing sound disappears and you get a little bit more of a humming sound there as you're getting towards the back of the aircraft. Let's just go over here. That might look a little bit easier. Well, that sound change was a little bit abrupt, I'd say, but overall, I tend to say that the general sound model is quite okay. Also note the wing flex over here. I'm zooming in a little bit. You can see it bending up and down a bit as we're flying. I'm not sure if we are in any actual turbulence over here, since we don't have a camera that would move around to reflect any turbulence. But in general, I tend to say the wing flex effect is not really all that overdone over here, and overall I tend to call it okay. Unlike a couple other aircraft where the wings are flapping as if they are desperately trying to create a little bit of lift, which I'm really hoping we don't need over here. In general, I think we can say on the first impression of the flight dynamics that the adaptation of the flight dynamics to the new simulator was a success, and that the new flight dynamics seem believable. Now, as always with any Microsoft Flight Simulator version, the same applies to P3D by the way, and X-Plane, I think it is fairly hard to actually fly the aircraft precisely enough that you can just trim it out and it will maintain an altitude. In the real world, that is a fairly easy thing to do, and in the real world you can easily do a complete flight manually, and as long as you remain focused and maintain a good instrument scan, you can fly the aircraft as precisely as the autopilot can. In the simulator, I find that rather difficult, if I'm honest, because controlling the aircraft around the null zone is just very, very difficult, especially trimming it out over there. And that seems to apply to the A300 just like it does to any of the other simulator aircraft we have. So that's neither a plus or a minus to the A300, it's just general flight simulator behavior. And again, I did find the same on X-Plane and P3D, so maybe it's a thing of just working with, you know, cheap plastic hardware versus multi-million-dollar hardware in the real world. In any case, something that we can say, unfortunately, is that the weather radar is still just the same Asobo radar, the useless one you will remember, as it was in earlier versions. We've got a tilt at 0 over here, which means we should basically see weather at our altitude. You tell me if there is weather at any of our altitudes. Now let's try the ultimate test. Take the tilt up to 15. And I can tell you that at an angle of 15 degrees above us, there is no weather at all. Unfortunately, the radar image doesn't change, so over here there is weather. Well, looks nice on the displays, but rather useless for actual usage during the flight. Okay, in any case, let's go ahead and start to prepare for our approach into Brussels. So we can get rid of those Heathrow charts. Then show me my destination, please. Arrivals will take the Coxie 8 Alpha and will also take the Carry 1 or the Kirky 1 Sierra. For the approach itself, it will be the ILS approach to runway 25 right. And if we have a look at the airport chart, you will immediately see why. 25 right, landing up here, and that leads us right out at Alpha 6 onto the cargo apron. Now let's go ahead and have a quick look into the weather, just to see what the weather is right now. 060 at 7, so that's 7 knots of direct tailwind onto runway 35 right. Alternatively, we could look into landing on 07, even though they do have a preferential runway system, and at the time I'm recording this, they seem to be using runway 25 in the real world rather than runway 07. But let's go ahead and take a quick moment to see what kind of arrivals we would have available. So Coxie 8 Alpha is a general arrival leading us over to Kirky. From there we'd have a straight in approach onto 07 right. So then we need some transitions and some approach. So of course I meant 07 left, by the way. One thing though, as you can see, there is no precision approach available to runway 07. You have a VOR approach available over here, starting out from Kirky via Alpha Fox India onto the final, and it is an offset approach as well, so that one is available. And as you can see, no RMP approaches there, and no ILS approaches. For this reason, 25 is the preferential runway in use in Brussels. And that is the reason why, even with a 7-knot tailwind, I am opting for landing on runway 25 right here, rather than doing the VOR approach to runway to runway 07 left. So tailwind approach it is. Let's go into the EFB onto the landing page then and see what we have. So runway 25 right, synchronize the weather conditions, please. Let's take a 5 knots extra speed here to go on the safe side. Dry, config full, manual braking, calculate. So we need around 1,900 meters of landing distance there, which is just about perfect. So back onto the Navigraph chart, let's see what we've pinned now. And there's everything we need over here. So starting with the Coxie 8 Alpha arrival, from Coxie over to Kirky, above level 70. Let's bring up the plan page and have a look. So we have Coxie, then Kirky above 4,000? That's not correct. So Kirky slash plus 7,000. That's better. Alright, out of Kirky, we're going to enter the Kirky 1 Sierra transition, which is from Kirky towards Exoff and then Oklub at 230 knots. So we've got Kirky, Exoff and Oklub, 230 knots, and then we turn on to the final, Uveti, max 200 above 2000, which we have in here. And from there we are going to join the ILS approach towards runway 25 right, starting out at a platform of 2000 from Uveti, and then the Bravo 25 Romeo Fox is our final approach fix. At a 3-degree glide slope, and looking into the FMS, we've got Bravo 25 Romeo Fox, 2000, 3-degree glide slope. We are going to check the outer marker at 1410 to a minimum of 302, which we can pre-select over here. So 302 is selected. And then the missed approach is going to be on track 244 to 700, turn right heading 015, climbing 3000, then as directed. And as you can see, that is pretty much what we have in here. So on the approach page, we are going to do a config 30 or 40 landing. We will use a wind correction of 5 knots. The MDA for this one is 302. And that's our approach configuration completed in the FMS. For the secondary flight plan, we don't really need to do anything. I am just going to maintain the active flight plan. Auto brakes low. And making sure that the landing config down here is selected to 30 and 40. So that's 30 degrees of slats, 40 degrees of flaps. Alright, and that is our general setup already completed. So I'd say in the absence of anything non-standard, let's just make it a simplified briefing. So going over to your side for the time being. Coxie 8 Alpha arrival with a Kirky 1 Sierra transition, MSA, well, 3000 keeps us safe. ILS approach onto runway 25 right, minimums 302, which is set in the FMS. And set on our individual sides as well. Now, in case of go around, straight at 700, right hand turn, heading 015, climbing to 3000. And extra fuel and time, if we can have a look at that. Where is the fuel prediction page? Here it is. It tells me 0. I don't believe that, however. We've got 2.6 tons in the tanks. That is not correct. Look at that. Where's all the fuel gone? I have a feeling. Did it reset our load when we were... Yeah, it must have reset our load when I plugged the joystick in and out. Oh, bloody simulator. Unable to fuel aircraft when engines are running. Okay. Well, my friends. Can we do it up here? No? Okay. Houston, we've got a problem. I just hate it when the simulator is doing these kind of things. But okay, very quick check. We are using 7,000 kilos an hour. We have 2.6 on board. That means we have fuel for around 20 minutes. Well, mayday, mayday, mayday. Postman 2665, fuel. Request an immediate approach to Brussels. So let's go ahead and get ourselves that shortcut, direct to Oslo. And then we're reaching our top of descent just now. So, profile speed, profile descent, let's go down to flight level 100. That is lovely. That is just lovely when the simulator acts up like that. In any case, let's quickly see how much fuel do we actually have. So final reserve is 2.2. We'll definitely land below that. And now it says 2.0 on arrival, which I'm not 100% sure I can trust. But we'll just leave it at that for now. Let's see what the fuel flow is going to be once we're established on the descent. By the way, that's some excellent shadows over here, isn't it? That's looking really cool. If you look at the panel like that, wow. That is where FS 2024 just really shines. But I'm really wondering now, if we go back in the video, how much fuel did we have on takeoff? I know we had the fuel when we went off block. And I'm kind of worried that it just changed my fuel when I plugged the joystick in and out. But how much did we actually have? I don't know. That's not the kind of stuff you expect as a pilot, that you're losing fuel when you do a flight control check. Okay, in any case, let's continue our briefing then. We're going to do a manually flown ILS approach onto runway 25 right. Config full for the landing. Reversers will be used together with auto brakes low. Vacating the runway to the right hand side, as we have seen on our approach chart, or rather on the airport chart down here. So vacating over here via Alpha 6. And then we're basically immediately at the cargo apron already. Do you have any questions on that? No? Beautiful. Any threats? Well, fuel. So how are we going to mitigate against that? We are not going to do a go-around. So the first arrival has to be the one. And that's it. Any questions? No? Excellent. So looking down here, we used we used around 3.7 tons of fuel for the time being. So we're actually looking at fuel, well, there is no room for a missed approach, maybe 10 minutes extra after the completion of the approach. I tend to say that's probably a realistic number there. So what's it using right now? We're looking at maybe one ton per engine, so 2 tons an hour in the descent. Oh well, I tell you what, I'm just not gonna bother with it. We're gonna fly that approach, and if we actually have to go around, we'll fly a traffic pattern and do an immediate re-landing. Or what we're actually gonna do, in case we do a go around, straight at 1000, do a procedure turn and land opposite on 07. I think that's the best plan we can have over here. Weather update, broken clouds 1300, so procedure turn in 1000 shouldn't be a problem. Well then, that's going to be our plan. So let's descend 3000, set QNH. QNH 1030 cross-check, passing 13,300 now. Checked. So, correcting the altimeter difference it gained when we set our QNH. So, constraints is already selected, seatbelt signs are coming on. I don't think we'll need you anymore. Beautiful looking model, that's for sure. Oh, and that's the simulator lagging around again. Here we go. So, reducing airspeed to 50. Then let's see, what do we have here? Headwind at 26 knots. We're looking at around 30 miles up there. Yeah, I tend to say that's a nice idle descent profile here. So VNAV was... It looks to me like VNAV was improved quite a bit as well. Alright, approaching 10,000, the landing lights are coming on. We'll also make sure the ILSs are selected. And talk about the ILSs, we still got to tune them down here, I just remember that. It's an A300 after all. So, 25 right, 108.9 and 244. 1089 and the course 244. Perfect. So that's set, and last but not least, we do have GPS primary with a high accuracy. Very good. Now what is our airspeed doing here? Well, probably following the profile a little bit too strict, but iniBuilds did say that the aircraft is not exactly the best performer on VNAV, so we'll just let that slide. In any case, approach checklist please. Briefing, Oh, sorry, signs on, briefing confirmed, ecam status checked, altimeters, QNH 1030, minimums 302, ignition off, landing elevation, quick cross check here, 100 versus 100. Okay, 100 feet set, approach checklist completed. So let's see, we're going to turn base in around 15 miles, 9,000 feet right now, so we need 32 miles in order to lose our altitude, and that overall looks pretty good. I tend to say that profile is a fair one. Let's see, flight plan page, Oklub, 4,700 feet expected. Yep, that's quite good. The one thing we want to make sure in a situation like this, 2,000 kilos of fuel remaining now, the one thing we want to make sure in a situation like this is that we are nicely on the energy profile without any need to even slightly risk a go-around. We might waste a little bit of fuel by going a little bit lower than planned. That is completely fine, but I'd rather use a little bit of fuel for getting a little bit low than having to fly a go-around, which is definitely going to use a little bit more fuel. Overall, very nice descent profile. The VDEF seems accurate to me. 10 miles to Oklub. $230 knots over there, then we're going to turn onto the base. And 2,000 is going to be our next altitude, so let's go ahead and set that already. The deceleration point seems a little bit early to me though. If it starts to decelerate over here, it has some 5 miles to lose 20 knots of airspeed. That seems a little bit over-ambiguous. Let's just call it like that. She certainly doesn't seem too bothered with that fuel situation. Just sitting there and, yeah, I don't care. Nothing I can do anyway. That's the right attitude here. Have a plan, but don't overreact. Alright, 11 dm from the ILS now. How much distance do we have remaining? 20 miles, 5,000 feet, excellent. That's a very good profile. Okay, we are down at 230 knots, a little bit early as mentioned, still 3 miles to Oklub where the restriction actually applies, but nonetheless the speed is down, that's the important thing. The glide slope is coming alive, indicating to us that we're on a good profile here. As we turn base, we'll probably be exactly on the glide. And here we go. Right, what's the outside air temperature? Do we need anti-ice? +10. No, we don't. But as we're about to start decelerating a bit, we could, of course, see a reduction in the TAT, and then anti-icing might be needed. So, I tell you what, turn it on. And engine anti-ice is on. Slight increase in thrust associated with the engine anti-ice usage. That's normal. And then looking down here, we are looking at a 16 knot tailwind on our final. So let's start configuring. Flaps 1. Speed checked. Right, level change. Let's get that speed under control. Again, we are nicely below the glide slope, so we can take our time to do that and deviate from the VNAV profile here. And with that tailwind, I definitely want to be slow intercepting the ILS, so flaps 15. Speed checked. Let's bring it down to 170 or something the likes. Vertical speed. Okay, Cat 3, dual. Glide slope localizer blue. And let's turn final, heading 240, cleared ILS approach. Still 16 knots of tailwind, which means we are going to maintain a nice ground speed here, 180 knots. 400 feet a minute, descending down into the glide slope. Runway is around 11 miles out, so that glide slope does seem accurate to me. And of course I failed on that heading, should have been 220 for the intercept. Something like that. So let's start reducing airspeed. Glide slope star, localizer star. Go around altitude 3000 set. Runway track 244 set. Okay, 1.8 tons of fuel. Fuel flow is looking good. The engines are in idle. Very nice. Temperatures +4, so very good thing that we do have the anti-ice on. Alright, gear down. And flaps 20. So, fuel low, yeah. Clear fuel, that shall not be our concern right now. Status, fuel low level, remove status. Come on, you go away, thanks. Okay, flaps 30. And then we're looking at an approach speed, we approach 123, so we're looking at 128. Like that. Landing checklist. Landing gear down. Auto brake slow. Anti-skid normal on. Slats flaps 30-40. Spoilers armed. Landing checklist complete. Okay, we're nice and stable. 12 knots of tailwind for the time being. Let's check the ground wind one more time. 060 at 6. Perfect. Okay, autopilot off. And auto throttle off. So, entering a little bit of turbulence, but we're in a rather heavy aircraft, so generally we shouldn't need too many changes in the thrust over here. Let's just make sure we don't get too quick. The wind is dying down. Slightly right of center line, correcting. Checked. Okay, now the wind is really dying down. Approaching minimum. Minimum, continue.
100. 60. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Oh, interesting taxi signs on the left there. So, speed brake up, thrust reverse normal. Hello. That looks interesting. Haven't seen those before. 70 knots, manual brakes. So we'll go forward and off to the right. Let's get that viewpoint a little bit up again so that we can actually see something in front. And here we are on the cargo apron. So let's do the after landing procedures. Transponder alt off, weather radar off, flaps up, spoilers disarmed. And that should be it. After landing checklist. Slats flaps retracted. Transponder alt off. Weather radar off. Spoilers disarmed. APU started. After landing checklist complete. So, is there any free cargo stand anywhere here? Or did the AI just block the entire apron? And a quick check. Status. Yeah. Clear U 1.6. Yeah, that's not exactly what we would have liked, but seeing that Microsoft Flight Simulator caught us once again with its I'm gonna change my panel state when I plug a joystick in and out, and not recognize the joystick in first place so that it becomes necessary to plug a joystick in and out. Well, things could have been worse. Let's leave it at that. So, there seems to be a free stand over here. Let's go ahead and take that one. Right, lights are coming off. The APU is already available. Oh, what's that? Stand no longer in use? Yeah, they scratched that one away. Funny, so it blocked the entire cargo apron. Can you imagine? Now that is stupid AI, leaving no spots at all for a freighter. I suppose maybe if we taxi ahead a little bit between those two A330s over there. But that doesn't really look like a free parking stand. But it seems like it indeed. Okay, I tell you what. That is stand number 955 in front of us here. Let's stop. GSX. So, parking. Didn't I say 955? Yes, I did. Why doesn't it have that stand? Well, 954 then, up there. So 954, select anyway yes. Shouldn't we have a possibility to clear that thing off the AI? Certainly just change the AI. Oh well. That's better. Keep it... What on... We are gonna park over here. Right over here where we are. FS 2024. So, APU is up in avail. 1, 2. Transponder is going off. They can tow us to any suitable parking. Engines are running off. So beacon off. And fuel pumps. Are off. So APU bleed coming on. Parking checklist. APU bleed on. Engines off. Differential pressure 0. Lights and signs off and auto. Fuel pumps off. Window and probe heat off. Parking brake and chocks. Brake set. Parking checklist complete. Well, my friends, that was certainly an interesting flight. But many of those issues were down to the lovely Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and not actually to the aircraft. So we are going to ignore those when we talk about the conclusion of our flight and my first impression of the iniBuilds Airbus A300 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So what can we say? Well, it flies nice. It looks good. It sounds nice. And I think it is a nice little improvement over the version of the previous simulator. Now, of course, you will not find like major differences between the FS 2020 and the FS 2024 version. There are some differences around. That's the reason why you only pay a small upgrade fee of, well, 10 British pounds excluding tax, so realistically around 15 euros or 15 US dollars. But nonetheless, I think it is an enjoyable aircraft, and if you are a freight dog or if you enjoy retro airliners, this is definitely an aircraft for you to consider. Overall, I certainly do like it. I will fly it more on this channel. You will definitely see me fly the A300 a little bit more over here over time. And with all of that out of the way, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and see you all again on the next one.